The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most moons, made of gleaming metal and glowing lights. This was where the Galactic Council met to decide the fate of entire worlds. Today, something unusual was happening. Ambassador Quendal of the Veltari race stood before the great circular chamber. His blue skin seemed to shimmer under the bright lights as he spoke to the gathered representatives. Around him sat beings from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking trees. And some were just clouds of gas that somehow thought and spoke. "Fellow council members," Quendal said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We have discovered a new species on the outer rim of our galaxy. They call themselves humans, and they come from a small blue planet called Earth." A low rumble of conversation filled the chamber. New species were always interesting, but most were either too primitive to matter or too advanced to need the Council's help. Quendal touched a control panel, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. "This species has developed basic space travel and nuclear weapons. Our observers classify them as Class 3 developing civilization." Grand Marshal Kethmore of the warrior Kethvar race leaned forward in his seat. His red scales caught the light as he spoke. "Nuclear weapons? How primitive. My people gave up such crude tools thousands of years ago." "Indeed," agreed Dr. Zephani, whose large brain was visible through her transparent skull. "The Zephani achieved clean energy conversion long before we reached the stars. These humans seem quite backward." Quendal nodded. "Our reports show they are violent and wasteful. They fight wars among themselves and damage their own planet. However, they have made a request to meet with us." At that moment, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. A voice announced, "The human delegation has arrived." The great doors at the far end of the chamber opened with a deep hum. 3 figures walked into the room, and immediately the council members began to whisper among themselves. The humans looked so ordinary compared to the exotic aliens around them. Admiral Kim Dae-ho led the group. He was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. He wore a simple military uniform with no fancy decorations. Behind him walked Dr. Park Soo-jin, a woman with intelligent eyes and a small device in her hand that she kept glancing at. The third human was Lee Hyun-woo, a younger man who moved with the quiet confidence of a trained soldier. The humans walked to the center of the chamber and stopped. Kim Dae-ho looked around at all the alien faces staring down at them. He showed no fear, only curiosity. "Honored council members," Kim Dae-ho said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I am Admiral Kim Dae-ho of the United Earth Fleet. We come seeking friendship and alliance." Several council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Merchant Prince Morden, whose tentacles writhed with amusement, spoke first. "Alliance? What could your primitive species possibly offer the Galactic Council?" Kim Dae-ho remained calm. "We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our commitment to peace, but we also come with a warning." "A warning?" Quendal's voice showed his surprise. "What could you possibly warn us about?" "There is a threat approaching from beyond the galactic rim," Kim Dae-ho said. "Our deep space sensors have detected a large force moving toward council space. They appear to be artificial intelligences, machines that have turned against organic life." The chamber erupted in noise. Some council members laughed, others seemed angry, and a few looked worried. Grand Marshal Kethmore stood up, his massive form towering over the humans. "You dare come here with fairy tales? The Council has protected this galaxy for 10,000 years. We fear no threats." "Perhaps," Kim Dae-ho said quietly. "But these machines are different. They learn and adapt to whatever weapons are used against them. Traditional energy weapons become useless after the first few battles." Dr. Zephani's large eyes blinked slowly. "Impossible. Our weapons are perfectly designed. There is no defense against pure energy projection." Dr. Park Soo-jin stepped forward slightly. While she spoke, her small device continued to beep softly in her hand. With respect, Dr. Zeffani, we have studied the remains of worlds these machines destroyed. They consume technology and use it to build more of themselves. Energy weapons just give them more power to work with. Ridiculous, snorted Ambassador Quendall. Even if such a threat existed, what makes you think your species could help? You have barely left your own star system. Li Hyunwoo spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but clear. Because we think differently than you do. While you have perfected your weapons over thousands of years, we have learned to adapt quickly to new threats. The council members looked at each other with expressions that clearly showed they thought the humans were either lying or insane. Very well, Quendall said finally. If you wish to join the council, you must prove your worth. The traditional way is through combat trials, your ships against our training fleets. Kim Dae-ho nodded slowly. We understand. But may we ask what kind of ships and weapons your training fleets use? Standard plasma cannons, particle beams, and energy shields. Grand Marshal Kethmore replied proudly. The finest weapons in the galaxy. I see, Kim Dae-ho said. And your tactics? Formation flying, energy duels, and surrender when shields fail, Kethmore explained. Civilized warfare with minimal casualties. Dr. Park Soo-jin's device beeped more rapidly now, though she tried to hide it. Lee Hyunwoo's eyes were moving constantly, studying the chamber's layout and the positions of the guards. We would be honored to participate in your trials, Kim Dae-ho said with a slight bow. However, we request time to prepare our ships and study your rules of engagement. Granted, Quendall said with obvious amusement. You have 6 months to prepare. We will send you the location of the trial grounds. As the humans turned to leave, Kim Dae-ho stopped and looked back at the council. Honored members, please consider our warning about the approaching threat. If you detect any unusual signals from beyond the rim, we hope you will contact us. We will consider it, Quendall replied, though his tone suggested he would do no such thing. The humans walked out of the chamber with the same calm dignity they had shown when entering. Behind them, the council members immediately began talking among themselves. Arrogant primitives, Grand Marshal Kethmore growled. 6 months of preparation will not help them against our superior technology. Indeed, agreed Dr. Zeffani. Their ship design is crude, their weapons primitive. They still use chemical rockets and nuclear fission. Merchant Prince Morden's tentacles waved thoughtfully. Still, there was something about them. Did you notice how they asked about our weapons and tactics? Almost as if they were gathering intelligence. Paranoid thinking, Quendall dismissed. What intelligence could they possibly gather that would help them? Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than theirs. Unknown to the council, Dr. Park Soo-jin's small device had been recording everything, not just the conversation, but detailed scans of every piece of technology in the chamber. Her sensors had mapped the energy frequencies of the lights, the composition of the walls, and even the quantum signatures of the alien technologies present. As the human ship departed from Nexus Prime, Lee Hyunwoo reviewed the intelligence they had gathered. Interesting, he said to his companions. They have incredible technology, but they think in very predictable patterns. Their weapons are impressive, Dr. Park Soo-jin added, studying her readings. But they are all energy-based. They seem to have abandoned physical projectiles entirely. Admiral Kim Dae-ho stared out at the stars as their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. They have been at peace so long they have forgotten how to truly fight. Their civilized warfare with rules and surrender protocols will not work against the machines approaching from the rim. Should we try to convince them again? Dr. Park asked. No, Kim Dae-ho replied. They will not listen until they see the threat for themselves. By then, it may be too late for them, but not for us. Back on Nexus Prime, the council continued their session as if nothing important had happened. They discussed trade routes, settled minor disputes between member worlds, and planned cultural exchanges. The humans and their warning were quickly forgotten. In his private quarters that night, Ambassador Quendall reviewed the recordings of the meeting. Something about the humans bothered him, though he could not say what. They had seemed too calm, too prepared for beings meeting advanced aliens for the first time. He pulled up the intelligence reports on Earth again. The planet was indeed primitive, by Council standards. Their weapons were crude, their ships slow, and their technology inefficient. Yet they had somehow detected a threat that the Council's vast sensor networks had missed. Quendall made a note to have the outer rim monitored more carefully, though he did not really believe the human warning. After all, what could threaten the mighty Galactic Council? Far away, the human ship continued its journey back to Earth. In the cargo hold, carefully shielded containers held samples of exotic materials and energy readings that human scientists had only dreamed of. The diplomatic mission had been a success, though not in the way the Council thought. 6 months. Admiral Kim Dai. 6 months had passed since Admiral Kim Dae-ho returned from Nexus Prime. Earth looked different now. Where once there had been peaceful cities and quiet research stations, massive shipyards stretched across the planet's orbit. The sound of construction never stopped. General Choi Min-ho stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, watching hundreds of workers in spacesuits crawling over the hull of humanity's newest warship. The vessel was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Angular and brutal-looking, covered in thick armor plating instead of the smooth energy shields other species preferred. "Status report," General Choi said into his communication device. "Hull plating is 90% complete," came the reply from Chief Engineer Yang Ji-woo. "Weapon systems installation begins tomorrow. We should have the first squadron ready in 2 weeks." General Choi nodded with satisfaction. Yang Ji-woo had been working around the clock since the diplomatic mission returned. Using the technology scans Dr. Park Soo-jin had taken at the Council station, human engineers had learned incredible things about alien technology. But instead of copying it exactly, they had improved it. "General," another voice called over the communication system. "Captain Han So-young requests permission to begin crew training exercises." "Granted," General Choi replied. "Tell the captain her ship will be ready soon." Captain Han So-young was waiting in the briefing room when General Choi arrived. She was studying holographic displays of ship designs, her face focused and determined. Around her, other ship captains and military officers reviewed their assignments. "The Council species use energy weapons exclusively," Captain Han explained, pointing to the displays. "Plasma cannons, particle beams, energy torpedoes. All very advanced, but they have one major weakness. They need power to function," added Commander Bae Jun-sik, who had been analyzing Council military records. "Cut the power, and their weapons become useless. More importantly, they have not used kinetic weapons for thousands of years." General Choi smiled grimly. "While they perfected energy weapons, we perfected throwing rocks very fast." The room filled with quiet laughter. It was true. Human weapons still relied on physical projectiles. Bullets, missiles, and kinetic slugs that could punch through any armor. The aliens had abandoned such primitive weapons long ago. "What about their shields?" asked Captain Ryu Sung-min, another ship commander. Dr. Lim A-rin, the xenobiologist, who had been studying alien physiology, stepped forward. "That is where things get interesting. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at high speed. A simple steel rod traveling at 10% of light speed would go right through their most advanced defenses." "Fascinating," General Choi said. "What else have we learned?" Commander Bae Jun-sik activated another display. "Their military tactics are very formal. Ships line up in neat formations, exchange fire at long range, and retreat when their shields fail. They consider it honorable to surrender when defeated." "They fight like it is a game," Captain Han So-young observed, "with rules and referees. Which means they have never faced an enemy that fights to win at any cost," General Choi concluded. "What about their technology weaknesses?" Engineer Yang Ji-woo joined the briefing, wiping grease from her hands. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it is also incredibly specialized. Each system does one thing perfectly. Our technology is simpler but more flexible. A human missile can be reprogrammed in flight to serve as a communication relay, a sensor probe, or a kinetic weapon. Show them the gravity bombs," Dr. Park Soo-jin suggested as she entered the room. Yang Ji-woo smiled and activated a new display. This is our most interesting development. Using alien gravity manipulation technology, we have created weapons that can collapse space-time in a small area. The aliens use this technology for faster-than-light travel, but we weaponized it. The display showed the test results, a massive explosion that tore apart the fabric of space itself. Even the other humans in the room looked uncomfortable watching it. "How many of these can we build?" General Choi asked. "As many as we need," Yang Ji-woo replied. "The manufacturing process is automated. Our factories work continuously producing ships, weapons, and ammunition." Captain Han So-young studied the weapons data with interest. "The Council species have never seen anything like this. Their adaptive algorithms assume energy-based attacks." "Speaking of adaptation," Commander Bae Jun-sik said, pulling up another display, "I have been monitoring Council communications. They still have not detected the approaching threat from beyond the galactic rim." General Choi frowned. "How is that possible? Our sensors detected it months ago." "Their sensors are designed to look for known threats," Dr. Park Soo-jin explained. "Energy signatures from Council species, trade ships, known pirates. They are not looking for something completely different. The approaching force uses technologies we have never seen before," Commander Bae added. "Machine intelligences that can adapt to any weapon used against them. They learn from every battle and become immune to the same tactics." Dr. Lim A-rin pulled up her biological analysis reports. "I have been studying Council species evolution. Every single one of them evolved on worlds with abundant resources and few natural predators. They developed elegant solutions to problems because they had time and safety to think. Humanity is different," General Choi said, understanding where she was going. "Exactly. We evolved on a world with limited resources and constant danger. We learned to fight for everything we have. While other species developed perfect weapons, we learned to use anything as a weapon." Engineer Yang Ji-woo nodded enthusiastically. "That is why our technology is so different. We do not make perfect tools. We make tools that can become anything we need them to be." Captain Ryu Sungmin looked at the ship construction displays. "How many vessels will we have ready?" 50 warships of various classes," General Choi replied. "Not enough to fight the entire galaxy, but enough to make a difference when the real threat arrives." "When do you think that will be?" Captain Han So-young asked. Commander Bae Jun-sik checked his latest intelligence reports. "Based on the trajectory and speed of the approaching force, they will reach Council space in approximately 4 months. "Will the Council be ready?" Dr. Lim A-rin asked. "Not even close," Commander Bae replied grimly. "They still think their biggest problem is trade disputes and territorial arguments. They have no idea what is coming." General Choi stood and looked out at the construction yards again. Human workers continued building warships at an incredible pace. "Then we will have to be ready for all of them." The meeting broke up, and the officers returned to their duties. Captain Han So-young made her way to the docking bay where her new ship waited. The UES Defiance was humanity's first true warship, designed specifically for combat against advanced alien technology. Unlike Council ships with their smooth, elegant lines, the Defiance looked like it had been built for war. Thick armor covered every surface and weapon ports bristled from its hull. It carried no energy shields. Instead, it relied on armor plating that could stop anything the Council might fire at it. "Beautiful, is she not?" Engineer Yang Ji-woo asked, appearing beside Captain Han. "She looks like she could fight her way through hell itself," Captain Han replied with satisfaction. "That was the idea. Energy shields are useless against physical weapons, so we built ships that do not need them. Pure armor and firepower." Captain Han walked around her ship inspecting every detail. "What about the weapons?" "Kinetic cannons that fire tungsten slugs at 20% of light speed. Nuclear-tipped missiles with adaptive guidance systems. Gravity bombs that can collapse a star. And if all else fails, the ship itself can be used as a kinetic weapon." Captain Han raised an eyebrow. "The ship is expendable?" "Every human ship is designed with that possibility in mind. If ramming an enemy vessel will win the battle, The ship can be set to autopilot and used as a massive kinetic projectile. This was perhaps the most alien concept of all to Council species, the idea that a ship and its crew might sacrifice themselves for victory. Council warfare was civilized, with rules and honor codes. Human warfare was about winning at any cost. The crew knows this? Captain Han asked. Every human volunteer knows exactly what they are signing up for. We are not fighting for glory or honor. We are fighting for the survival of our species and any other species smart enough to stand with us. 2 weeks later, Captain Han So-young stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as it conducted its first test flight. Around her, 50 other human warships moved in perfect formation. They looked like a pack of predators compared to the elegant vessels of the Council species. All ships report ready, her communications officer announced. Begin combat exercises, Captain Han ordered. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moved in chaotic patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully calculated to avoid enemy fire. They used asteroids as cover, deployed minefields as area denial weapons, and practiced ramming attacks against simulated targets. Most importantly, they practiced switching weapon types rapidly during combat. Energy weapons to kinetic weapons, to nuclear weapons to gravity bombs, never giving an adaptive enemy time to adjust to their tactics. Exercise complete, the tactical officer reported. The first attack came without warning. Grand Admiral Velthara of the Kethvar Military Command was reviewing routine patrol reports when her communications officer suddenly straightened with alarm. Admiral, we are receiving emergency transmissions. From Outpost 7. Put it through, Velthara ordered, her red scales shifting to a darker shade of concern. The holographic display activated, showing a panicked Veltari officer. Behind him, alarms were blaring and sparks flew from damaged equipment. This is Commander Yelnak at Outpost 7. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Our weapons are having no effect. The transmission cut to static. Grand Admiral Velthara stared at the empty display for a moment, then began issuing orders. Alert all fleet commanders. Deploy the 3rd Defense Squadron to Outpost 7 immediately. Within hours, reports began flooding in from across the outer rim. Entire star systems were going dark. Council fleets sent to investigate either disappeared completely or sent back frantic messages about impossible enemies before falling silent. At Nexus Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 6 straight hours. The great chamber buzzed with worried conversation as reports continued to arrive. Ambassador Quendal stood before the assembled representatives, his usual calm demeanor replaced by obvious stress. Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented threat. The attacking force appears to be entirely artificial in nature. Machine intelligence is operating ships unlike anything in our databases. Dr. Zafani, her large brain pulsing with activity, leaned forward. Our analysis of the attack pattern suggests these machines can adapt to our weapons in real time. Ships that survive the first exchange of fire become completely immune to the same weapons within minutes. Grand Marshal Kethmore slammed his massive fist on his chair's armrest. Impossible. Our plasma cannons are the finest weapons ever created. Nothing can become immune to pure energy. The evidence suggests otherwise, Dr. Zafani replied quietly. The enemy vessels somehow absorb and redirect our energy attacks. After the first few hits, our weapons not only become useless, but actually seem to make the enemy ship stronger. Merchant Prince Morden's tentacles writhed anxiously. What about our defensive positions? Surely our fortress worlds can hold them back? Fortress Kethdal fell 3 hours ago, Velthara reported grimly. The enemy simply adapted to our defensive systems and walked through our shields as if they were not there. The chamber erupted in frightened voices. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the supreme power in the galaxy. The idea that something could challenge them so easily was almost impossible to accept. Silence, Ambassador Quendal called out. We must remain calm and consider our options. What options? Demanded Senator Vorth of the tree-like Groot-Ani. If our weapons are useless and our defenses fail, what can we do? An uncomfortable quiet fell over the chamber. None of the advanced alien species had any idea how to fight an enemy that could adapt to their technology faster than they could deploy it. Finally, Dr. Zefani spoke in a small voice. There is one possibility. The humans warned us about this threat. Perhaps they have ideas we have not considered. The chamber filled with uncomfortable muttering. Most council members remembered the human diplomatic mission and how they had dismissed the primitives' warnings. You suggest we ask for help from a species that has barely left their own star system? Grand Marshal Kethmore asked with obvious distaste. I suggest we ask for help from anyone who might have answers. Dr. Zefani replied firmly. Our pride will not matter if we are all dead. Ambassador Quendall hesitated for a long moment, then activated his communication console. Send a priority message to the human homeworld. Request immediate diplomatic contact with Admiral Kim Dae-ho. The response came back within hours, much faster than should have been possible across such a distance. Admiral Kim Dae-ho appeared on the holographic display, but something about him seemed different. His simple military uniform had been replaced by combat gear, and his eyes held a hardness that had not been there before. Ambassador Quendall, Kim Dae-ho said with a slight nod. I understand you are experiencing some difficulties. Admiral, Quendall began, swallowing his pride. We require assistance with the threat you warned us about. Our traditional methods have proven ineffective. Kim Dae-ho's expression did not change. I see. And what assistance do you require from us primitives? The words stung, but Quendall pressed on. We need military support. Our weapons cannot stop these machines, but perhaps your different approach might be more successful. Our approach, Kim Dae-ho said slowly, is not civilized by your standards. We do not fight with honor codes or surrender protocols. We fight to win, regardless of cost. Grand Marshal Kethmore leaned forward. Surely you cannot suggest we abandon the civilized conduct of warfare. I suggest you abandon any conduct that gets you killed, Kim Dae-ho replied bluntly. These machines you are fighting, we call them the Convergence. They learn from every encounter. Energy weapons make them stronger. Predictable tactics make them smarter. The only way to defeat them is to be more unpredictable than their adaptation algorithms can handle. How do you know so much about them? Dr. Zefani asked suspiciously. Because we have been preparing to fight them for 6 months. While you ignored our warnings, we studied every piece of data we could find about them. We know how they think, how they adapt, and how they can be stopped. Ambassador Quendall felt a chill run through him. You have been preparing for this war while we remained unaware? We tried to warn you. You chose not to listen. Now the war has come whether you are ready or not. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this information. Finally, Quendall spoke again. What do you require from us? Full tactical command of all council military forces in the affected sectors. No interference with our methods, no matter how disturbing you find them, and a clear understanding that we will do whatever is necessary to win. Impossible, Grandee. Marshal Kethmore roared. You cannot expect us to turn over command of our fleets to an untested species. Then you can try to stop the Convergence with your energy weapons and honor codes, Kim Dae-ho replied calmly. Let me know how that works out for you. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Dr. Zefani spoke. Perhaps we should consider their offer. Our current strategy is clearly not working. Over the next several hours, desperate reports continued to arrive. Entire fleet groups were being wiped out by the advancing machines. The Convergence was learning from every encounter, becoming more dangerous with each battle. Finally, with enemy forces only days away from major population centers, Ambassador Quendall made the call that changed everything. Admiral Kim Dae-ho, we accept your terms. You have full tactical command of council forces in the defense zones. Understood, Kim Dae-ho replied. Our ships are already en route. Expect arrival in 18 hours. How many ships are you bringing? Grand Admiral Velthara asked. Enough, was the only answer they received. When the human fleet arrived at the main council defense line, The alien commanders could hardly believe their eyes. The human ships looked nothing like the elegant vessels of Council species. They were angular, brutal-looking craft covered in thick armor and bristling with weapons that defied identification. Fleet Commander Oh Young-soo contacted the Council flagship from his command vessel, the UES Retribution. Unlike the smooth, diplomatic Kim Dae-ho, Oh Young-soo looked like he had been fighting battles his entire life. Council Fleet, this is Commander Oh Young-soo of the Human Defense Force. I am assuming tactical command as agreed. Grand Admiral Velthera activated her communication system reluctantly. Commander, my fleet is at your disposal. However, I must ask about your ships. They do not match any known design parameters. That is because we do not fight like anyone else in the galaxy, Oh Young-soo replied. Your ships are built for elegant energy duels. Our ships are built to kill things. Before Velthara could respond, her sensor officer called out urgently. Admiral, convergence forces detected approaching. Estimate contact in 30 minutes. All ships assume defensive formation, Velthara ordered automatically. Negative, Oh Young-soo's voice cut across the communication channel. All Council ships will remain in orbit around the planet. Human ships will engage the enemy. But, Commander, your force is much smaller than theirs. Size is not everything in warfare, Admiral. Watch and learn. The Convergence fleet appeared on sensors as a collection of geometric shapes that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. The enemy vessels looked more like crystalline growths than ships, with surfaces that reflected and absorbed light in disturbing patterns. Convergence fleet consists of 47 vessels of unknown configuration, the sensor officer reported. They are scanning our formations. Let them scan, Oh Young-soo said calmly. Scanning will not help them with what we are about to do. The human ships moved into what looked like a completely random formation. Some ships accelerated toward the enemy, others moved sideways, and a few actually seemed to be retreating. There was no pattern that the watching Council officers could understand. Human fleet, your formation appears chaotic, Grand Admiral Velthara commented. Chaos is the point, Oh Young-soo replied. The convergence. The victory at the Outer Rim defense line was just the beginning. Within days, reports flooded in from across Council space. The convergence was adapting to the human tactics and launching massive counterattacks. What had seemed like a decisive victory was becoming a galactic war. Captain Ryu Sung-min stood on the bridge of his destroyer, the UES Hammer, as it approached the Zephani home system. Intelligence reports indicated that a massive convergence fleet was heading straight for the planet, home to over 3 billion of the galaxy's most brilliant scientists. Captain, his communications officer announced, we are receiving a transmission from the Zephani Defense Fleet. Put it through. The hologram showed Admiral Thelvan, a Zephani commander whose brain was pulsing rapidly with stress. Human. Vessel, this is Admiral Thelvan. We have 43 ships defending our homeworld, but our weapons are still ineffective against the convergence. Can you assist us? That depends, Captain Ryu replied. Are you willing to follow human tactical doctrine? What does that involve? Fighting to win instead of fighting to look good. Your ships will need to break formation, abandon your energy weapons, and be prepared to sacrifice themselves if necessary. The silence that followed was telling. Finally, Admiral Thelvan spoke again. The Council has authorized us to place our fleet under human command. We will follow your orders. Good. First order, evacuate half your crew from each ship. We are going to turn your vessels into kinetic weapons. I beg your pardon? Your ships are fast and well armored. With skeleton crews and autopilot systems, they make excellent missiles. The convergence has never faced kamikaze attacks because no civilized species fights that way. Admiral Thelvan's brain pulsed even more rapidly. You want us to use our ships as suicide weapons? I want you to use everything as a weapon. Ships, asteroids, space stations, whatever works. The only rule is that we win. On the other side of the galaxy, Tactical Coordinator Shin Yun-ji was facing an even larger challenge. From her command position aboard the UES Retribution, she coordinated 17 different battle groups scattered across 4 star systems. Each group was fighting convergence forces that had adapted to different human tactics. Status report from all battle groups, she ordered. Her staff began calling out updates from across the war zone. Battle Group Alpha reports successful use of nuclear mines against convergence cruisers. Enemy losses at 60%. Battle Group Delta is engaging with gravity weapons. Convergence adaptation rate is slower than expected. Battle Group Gamma reports enemy forces have adapted to kinetic weapons, switching to boarding tactics. Shin Yunji nodded as she processed the information. The key to fighting the convergence was staying ahead of their adaptation curve. Every battle group used different tactics, forcing the enemy to adapt to multiple threats simultaneously. Signal Battle Group Epsilon. Tell them to begin Operation Sledgehammer. Operation Sledgehammer was perhaps the most brutal tactic humans had developed. Instead of trying to destroy convergence ships, they captured them and turned them into weapons against their own fleet. The process involved marine boarding parties fighting their way into enemy vessels and physically ripping out their control systems. Marine Colonel Nam Kite was leading one such boarding operation when he discovered something that changed everything. His powered armor clanked against the metal walls of the convergence ship as he and his squad fought their way toward the core. These things are not just machines, he reported over the communication system. They are using organic components as processing units. Explain. Tactical Coordinator Shin Yunji's voice crackled through his helmet speakers. The ship's computer core contains what looks like brain tissue from multiple species. The convergence is not just destroying civilizations, it is harvesting their minds to make itself smarter. This discovery sent shockwaves through the human command structure. The enemy was not just adaptive technology, it was using the combined intelligence of every species it had conquered to become more dangerous. That explains how they adapt so quickly, Dr. Park Soo-jin commented from her research station. They are using the tactical knowledge of hundreds of different species. It also explains why they have never faced tactics like ours, added Admiral Kim Dae-ho from his flagship. No other species fights the way humans do. The war entered a new phase, as human forces began targeting the organic components of enemy ships. Instead of trying to destroy the vessels outright, they focused on severing the connections between the mechanical systems and the harvested brains. Engineer Kwon Tae-hyun led the development of specialized weapons for this purpose. Electromagnetic, pulse devices that could scramble organic neural networks without damaging the mechanical components of the ships. If we can disrupt their organic processing units, he explained to the assembled commanders, the ships will revert to basic programming. They will lose their ability to adapt quickly. The new weapons were deployed in the next major engagement, at the industrial world of Morden Prime. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships swarmed over massive convergence vessels like predators attacking prey, their specialized weapons targeting the organic components hidden deep within enemy hulls. Captain Han So-young led the assault aboard her flagship, the UES Defiance. Her ship had been modified with cutting tools that could slice through enemy armor and deliver the electromagnetic pulse weapons directly to their targets. All ships, begin close-range attack pattern, she ordered. Remember, we are not trying to destroy them, we are trying to lobotomize them. The human ships closed to point-blank range and began literally cutting into the enemy vessels. Convergence ships that had been adapting to human tactics suddenly became sluggish and predictable as their organic components were disrupted. It is working, reported Captain Ryu Sung-min from his position. Enemy adaptation rate has dropped to almost zero. But the convergence had one final surprise. As their ships began to fail, they transmitted their accumulated knowledge to a massive command vessel hiding behind the system's star. This vessel, larger than anything previously encountered, began to adapt not just to human tactics, but to human strategy itself. New contact, the sensor officer aboard the UES Retribution announced. Massive vessel emerging from behind the star. Size estimate, approximately 50 kilometers long. Tactical Coordinator Shin Yunji stared at the readings in disbelief. That thing is bigger than some of our space stations. It is also adapting to our electromagnetic pulse weapons, Dr. Park Soo-jin reported grimly. The organic components are being shielded somehow, Admiral Kim Dae-ho's voice came over the communication system from his command ship. All human forces, this is Admiral Kim. The enemy has deployed their command vessel. This is what we have been preparing for. What are your orders, Admiral? Captain Han So-young asked. We use the ultimate human weapon, Kim Dae-ho replied. Overwhelming force applied without restraint. What followed was the largest military operation in human history. Fleet Admiral An Dong-hwan arrived with the reserve fleet, 200 ships that had been held back for exactly this moment. Among them were vessels that made even veteran human officers uncomfortable to look at. The Planet Killer-class ships were humanity's darkest creation. Instead of being designed to fight other ships, they were built to destroy entire worlds if necessary. Their weapons could crack planets apart or cause stars to go supernova. Admiral, Captain Han So-young called over the communication system, are we really going to use those things? If necessary, Admiral An replied grimly. The Convergence command ship contains the accumulated knowledge of every species they have conquered. If it escapes, it will share that knowledge with other Convergence fleets across the galaxy. This is our only chance to stop them. The final battle began with the human fleet surrounding the massive Convergence command ship. Instead of the elegant formations favored by Council species, the humans attacked from every direction simultaneously. Ships dove at the enemy from above and below, while others approached from the sides. The attack pattern was so chaotic that even human officers had trouble following it. All ships engage at will, Admiral Kim Dae-ho ordered. Use every weapon, every tactic, everything we have. Hold nothing back. The battle that followed was less a fight than a feeding frenzy. Human ships swarmed over the enemy vessel like antibodies attacking an infection. They used kinetic weapons, gravity bombs, nuclear missiles, electromagnetic pulse devices, and finally, when all else failed, they rammed their ships directly into the enemy hull. Captain Ryu Sung-min was among those who chose the final option. As his ship, the UES Hammer, lost weapons and propulsion, he set course for the enemy command center. This is Captain Ryu to all ships, he announced over the communication system. It has been an honor serving with you. His ship struck the Convergence vessel at tremendous speed, the impact creating a massive explosion that could be seen from orbit. The enemy ship shuddered and began to list as critical systems failed. But it was engineer Kwon Tae-hyun who delivered the killing blow. He had been working on a specialized weapon throughout the entire war, a device that could overload the quantum matrices that held the enemy ship together. Quantum destabilizer is ready, he announced from his research vessel. The war was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the destruction of the Convergence command ship, the Galactic Council convened for what would become known as the most important session in their 10,000-year history. The Great Chamber at Nexus Prime was filled to capacity, with representatives from every member species present. Ambassador Quendal stood before the assembly, but the confidence he had once shown was gone. In its place was a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty that reflected the mood of the entire council. Fellow representatives, he began, we gather today to address the new reality of our galaxy. The threat we dismissed has been defeated, but not by us. We owe our continued existence to a species we once considered primitive. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some voices carried gratitude, others carried concern, and a few carried something that might have been fear. Admiral Kim Dae-ho sat in the observers section, wearing the same simple uniform he had worn during his first visit. But everything else about the situation had changed. Where once he had been ignored or dismissed, now every word he spoke carried the weight of proven capability. The human delegation has requested full membership in the Galactic Council, Quendal continued. But their proposal goes far beyond simple membership. They have submitted a complete reorganization of our military structure. Dr. Zafani leaned forward, her massive brain pulsing with thought. What exactly are they proposing? Emergency Chancellor. Morden activated a holographic display that showed the human military proposal. They want to establish the human defense fleet as the primary military force for the entire galaxy. All member species would contribute resources and personnel, but tactical command would remain with human officers. The chamber erupted in discussion. Grand Marshal Kethmore stood, his red scales dark with agitation. You ask us to surrender military sovereignty to a species that fights without honor or restraint? Admiral Kim Dae-ho stood and requested permission to speak. The chamber fell silent as Quendall granted it. Honored council members, Kim Dae-ho said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space, we do not ask you to surrender anything. We ask you to survive. Explain, demanded Senator Vorth of the Grudani. The convergence was not the only threat beyond the galactic rim. Our deep space sensors have detected at least 3 other hostile forces moving toward council space. The galaxy is no longer isolated from the wider universe. Dr. Park Soo-jin stood beside Admiral Kim, carrying data tablets with her latest research. We have been monitoring subspace communications from beyond the rim. There are conflicts raging across multiple galaxies, with artificial intelligences, rogue organic species, and forces we cannot even classify. You are saying there will be more wars? Dr. Zafani asked quietly. We are saying the war never ended, Kim Dae-ho replied. The convergence was just the first wave. Our victory has drawn attention from other threats that previously ignored this galaxy. Intelligence Officer Bae Jun-sik activated another display showing long-range sensor data. 3 distinct enemy fleets are currently approaching Council space. Estimated arrival times range from 6 months to 2 years. None of them use technology similar to the convergence. The chamber fell into worried silence as the implications sank in. Finally, Merchant Prince Morden spoke. What assurance do we have that humans will protect Council interests and not pursue their own agenda? Captain Han So-young, now promoted to Admiral, stood to answer. Because our agenda is survival. Humans learned long ago that the only way to be truly safe is to make sure everyone around you is safe too. Your species fights with methods we consider barbaric, Grand Marshal Kethmore accused. How can we trust you to protect civilized worlds? Because those barbaric methods work, Admiral Han replied simply. You can choose to fight clean and lose, or fight dirty and live. We prefer living. Dr. Lim Aaron presented her xenobiological analysis to the Council. I have studied the evolutionary history of every Council species. You all developed on worlds with abundant resources and minimal threats. This allowed you to create sophisticated cultures and elegant technologies. She paused, looking around the chamber. Humans evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill them. Limited resources, extreme weather, natural disasters, predators, disease, and constant competition from other humans. This created a species that sees everything as a potential weapon, and every problem is something that can be solved through creative application of violence. That sounds terrifying, Senator Vorth observed. It is terrifying, Dr. Lim agreed, but it is also exactly what the galaxy needs right now. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for maintaining their traditional military structure. Others wanted to place restrictions on human tactics. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the approaching threats. Finally, Admiral Kim Dae-ho requested permission to address the Council one final time. You are debating how to control us, he said simply. But you misunderstand the situation. We are not asking for your permission to defend the galaxy. We are offering to coordinate with you while we do it. The chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. If you accept our proposal, Kim continued, we will work within your political structure and respect your sovereignty. If you reject it, we will defend our allies and interests independently. Either way, we will be ready when the next threat arrives. Are you threatening us? Ambassador Quendall asked carefully. No, Kim replied. We are stating facts. The next enemy fleet will arrive in 6 months. You can face them with us as allies, or you can face them after they have gone through us. Those are your options. The vote was held the following day. By a margin of 7 votes, the Council accepted the human proposal. The Human Defense Fleet became the official military arm of the Galactic Council, with Admiral Kim Dae-ho as Supreme Commander. The reorganization began immediately. Fleet Admiral An Donghuan established training centers throughout Council space, where alien officers learned human tactical doctrine. The curriculum was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Lesson 1, Captain Ryu Sungmin told a class of Veltari officers, "Forget everything you know about honorable warfare. Honor is what you give to the dead. Victory is what you give to the living." Engineer Yang Ji-woo led technology integration programs where human and alien technologies were combined in new ways. Council energy weapons were modified to work with human kinetic systems. Alien shields were redesigned to provide redundant protection instead of elegant efficiency. "The goal is not perfection," she explained to a group of Zephani scientists. "The goal is reliability. A weapon that works 70% of the time but can be built quickly and cheaply is better than a weapon that works perfectly but takes years to manufacture." Captain Oh Young-soo established the first integrated battle groups where human and alien crews worked together on the same ships. The cultural differences were enormous, but the results were promising. Human aggression, combined with Zephani intelligence and Kethvar durability, he reported to Admiral Kim. "These mixed crews are more effective than either species fighting alone." But the most important change was psychological. Council species that had enjoyed 10,000 years of peace were learning to think like warriors. It was a difficult transition, but a necessary one. Dr. Shin Yoonji, now Director of Strategic Planning, established threat assessment protocols that monitored the entire galaxy for potential dangers. "We will never again be caught unprepared," she promised the Council. The first test of the new military structure came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected the first enemy fleet approaching the outer rim, not the organic or mechanical forces they had been expecting, but something that defied classification entirely. "Energy beings," Dr. Park Soo-jin reported to the assembled commanders. "They exist as pure consciousness without physical form. Our weapons may be completely useless against them." "Then we will find new weapons," Admiral Kim replied calmly. "Dr. Park, I want research teams working on consciousness disruption technology." "Admiral Han, prepare the fleet for unconventional warfare." "Captain O, begin developing tactics for fighting enemies that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." The response demonstrated how much the galaxy had changed. Instead of panic or committee meetings, there was immediate action. Human adaptability had become the new standard for Council military operations. 6 months later, the energy beings arrived at the galactic boundary. They were met not by the elegant fleets of the old Council, but by the brutal efficiency of the human defense fleet supported by integrated alien technologies. The battle was unlike anything previously seen in the galaxy. Human ships fired weapons that attacked the quantum structure of consciousness itself, while alien vessels provided support with technologies that could track beings existing in multiple dimensions. "Direct hit on enemy formation," reported Admiral Han from her flagship. "Consciousness disruption weapons are effective. Enemy coherence is breaking down." The energy beings, accustomed to sweeping aside physical matter with ease, found themselves unable to adapt to weapons that attacked their very existence. Within hours, they retreated beyond the galactic rim. "Second threat neutralized," Admiral Kim reported to the Council. Estimated time until third threat arrival, 14